43 minutes past the hour. We thank you for staying with us on this Monday, the first Monday of the month. With my guests here in studio. I did promise you that important conversation, especially on the fate of the National Dialogue Report. On my left, to my left is Honorable Didmus Barasa, MP for Kimilili. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the program. As well as to my right, Honorable Elijah Njoroge Kururia, MP for Gatundu North, independent candidate as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mheshimiwa, we begin with, of course, the NADCO report, that is the National Dialogue Committee report, which has elicited mixed reactions. I want to begin with you, Mheshimiwa Didmus. Do you think it achieved the objectives that Kenyans, because they were the center of these, the talks that were happening at Bomas, do you think it achieved the agenda and the intentions that Kenyans had hoped?
It did not achieve the expectations that Kenyans were expecting from this committee. Okay. And I want to say this because Raila Odinga is a very intelligent politician. If he puts 3 agendas on the table, there is one that he will always hide. That agenda that is supposed to be #1 agenda. And he seemed to have perfected this art. You remember from the beginning in 1992, when he wanted to run away with Fort Kenya after the death of his father, when he teamed up with Moi, almost brought down Kanu. When he teamed up with the Kibaki, he almost brought down his government. And even in the immediate, the infamous BBI. So what Raila Odinga wanted is that smarting from an election loss, he wanted to remain relevant in the Kenyan politics. So he engaged in a few demonstrations. He coerced the president into believing that we can sit and discuss. He ensured that Parliament approves the motion so that to legalize the Bomas discussions, while at the back of his mind he knew that when the report is out, he is supporting the report for implementation. Then the man goes to a meeting and he says, I agree that these issues are very pertinent, but we have to go the referendum way. There are 2 things which Raila Odinga wanted to achieve, which is coming out very clearly. One, he wanted to have a platform where he can continue engaging the government in terms of this is what the Kenyan want. Yeah? Then the second thing is that he wants us to go to a referendum way, and once a committee now is formed to frame referendum questions, there are other issues which will come in. And I can tell you for a fact, for free, that when IEBC will now set the date for the referendum, if we'll go that direction, Raila Odinga will take an opposing side with the government. So they will go to a referendum and they use the referendum as a context between him and the government. And when the government would lose, and of course now you see the mood of the country that the cost of living is very high, nobody will entertain that the government also spends colossal sums of money funding a referendum. So Kenyans are angry, they will shoot it down. Then he will carry that euphoria into 2027 elections, similar to where the Rainbow Alliance was born, where the Orange Democratic Alliance was born, between Chungwa and Ndisi. So I want to summarize what I've said by this statement, that Kenyans are very disappointed. In fact, I dare even say that if there is any public funds that were spent, to fund those discussions, the leader of majority salary the money should be recovered from those who have salaries. But those who are jobless, like Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the money should be recovered from their pension. It's a waste of time, a waste of Kenyan resources, and because Kenya is not ready to fund any referendum. If there's a discussion that we should entertain, it's a discussion on how we are going to lessen the cost of living, how we are going to reconstruct our economy that was punctured by the previous regime and get Kenya back on the development track.
You mentioned a few things that will be coming too, but let me pick the opinion of, Mheshimiwa Kururia. What do you make of this NADCO report? I mean, there was even controversy and questions regarding the formation of this committee. Do you think they lived up to the TORs?
No,
What is the terms of reference?
I want to agree with my colleague that the committee in the dialogue itself was not even necessary from the word go, because it is not even constitutional. It was just to satisfy political needs of some people and to be specific parties and coalitions, which they've done. But of course, the whole exercise did not bring down the cost of living, did not deal with the issue of the taxes where wananchi are complaining here and there. So like my colleague is saying, it was to satisfy somebody, and I know he's satisfied and he's very happy now. So now we can continue with the exercise of bringing now down the cost of living in the Republic.
You seem to be faulting Honorable Raila Odinga on, the agenda that was laid before, rather the outcome of this report. But both teams were represented, both the Kenya Kwanza, that is the ruling side, the government, as well as the opposition by his side, by Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka. Do you think, what would make this report seem to be one side outweighing the other?
When these people went to the streets, yes, there were a number of issues which they were talking about. And I supported that request to have this dialogue committee constituted. Of course, Parliament, yes, passed a motion to establish, to formally establish this committee. And I thought that this committee will have serious discussions. They even wasted Kenyans' time. There are very many Kenyans who traveled very long distances. We have people who travel from Mount Elgon to come and say we need a county in Mount Elgon. We have people who travel from as far as Kururia, every part of this country, to appear before this committee. And the things that are the outcome of the committee, none of the contents of the outcome came from Kenyans. They just, these are very basic things. These are things which will create positions for a few individuals, and that going forward into the future, we must go to the elections either to win or to lose. The person who loses should not continue disturbing the Kenyan people. He should go and do something meaningful. They should continue putting the government of the day on check.
But the Constitution, as we look at it now, there is no opposition leader, and therefore, as it were, the framers of the Constitution were expecting that then the legislature, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, would then be checking government. Do you think that perhaps there is a skewed interpretation of that?
No. We have opposition leaders. What we do not have is the official leader of the opposition, but we have opposition leaders. If you look at our standing orders, yes, there are certain committees that are reserved for members of the opposition, like PAC, PIC. Those are positions that are the avenues that are provided to the opposition parties to check the government of the day. And they summon government officials to appear before them, respond to their queries, they make reports to Parliament. As far as I'm concerned, they have been exercising that role that they have been given by our standing orders very well.
So then, Mheshimiwa Njoroge, what then needs to happen moving forward?
What needs to happen is we need to establish the office of the leader of opposition, because like we are saying, Raila Odinga wanted to be relevant, because if he kept quiet at home, politically it would come down. So what we need to establish that office, so that now he can be 24 hours checking the government.
Do you agree?
I have no problem with that. I have always said that if Raila Odinga want to occupy that position, how to achieve it is very simple. Let one member of nominated member of parliament from ODM or Azimio coalition resign. Let Raila Odinga take up that position as nominated member of parliament. You can decide to go either to go to the National Assembly or to go to the Senate. and then he will assume the role of the leader of minority. The leader of minority is the currently that person is the leader, is the one providing the leadership for the opposition parties. You know, there are two people in the National Assembly. We have the leader of majority, who actually is like the head of government business in the National Assembly, because he championed the interests of the government of the day. And then we have got the leader of minority, you know, and both of them, they have been given priority by our standing orders. If you have any matter that the parliament is discussing, the leader of majority and the leader of minority, they are given preference and more time to talk, either in support or in the opposition of the whatever that National Assembly is discussing. So the avenue is already provided. What I want to tell you, everybody in this country, especially those of us who are in leadership, we should ask ourselves one question, that where will this country be if each and everybody does things the way I am doing? The country is faced by serious challenges. If we have time to discuss anything in this country, that time should be reserved to discuss about what are the problems that Kenyans are going through, the challenges, the hard economic times. What are we going to do to ensure that we don't overburden our Kenyan people, and that we make life better? What is it that we can do to make the environment of doing business, to make the environment of doing business investor friendly, both local investors and international investors, so that investors don't close shop to go and open in other countries. These are things which we should be discussing now, not wasting time to discuss about whether we should do a referendum to embed the position of the leader of opposition in the National Assembly. That is not something that we may want to do. We should focus on issues that will add value to Kenyans.
Did you oppose the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee?
I did not oppose because at that time, the TOR were not set. And I thought that after that committee is constituted, they will begin to discuss serious issues. But it has just become a scenario of your friend calls you to say, I have important matters to discuss with you. You grant him the appointment, then he comes with a bottle of whiskey. Say, I just wanted us to just have a bottle of whiskey and enjoy life.
Did you oppose or support the establishment of the NDC?
I supported, but I thought we were going to get some results, which we never got. And every exercise is judged by the outcome. And now that we don't have the outcome, we never enjoyed, and we never got what we wanted as Kenyans. And then on behalf of the independent MPs, because we are not aligned to any coalition, both that participated, we fought the whole exercise because the independent MPs were not involved. It was a contest of parties and coalitions. And so they had their own discussions. We were not involved, so we are not even supporting. Yes.
At the end of
and in fact, for your information, the proposal, the recommendations that we embed national government CDF and the Senate Oversight Fund in our constitution was already on the floor of the National Assembly.
Yes.
It was co-sponsored by Honorable Robert Mbui. So we were already advanced with that. The issue of exploring ways to embed the office of the leader of majority, the leader of opposition in our constitution was also contained in the memo that the president wrote to the Speaker of the National Assembly, that we may relook into how we are going to achieve this. So the committee wasted Kenyan taxpayers' money. Even if they were funded from their own pockets, the office of the leader of majority is funded from taxpayers, including his salary. So they cannot again sit to reinvent the wheel.
Would you come up then with some legislation? And I'll also ask you, Mheshimiwa Kururia, would you then come up with that legislation to perhaps, you've said, to refund the money that was spent by this network?
Yeah, that we don't have to come up with the legislation. All we need to do is that the oversight committees PAC and PIC, they just need to retreat and do a report, which when that report is brought to the House, I will be able to marshal the numbers to support it, and then the Treasury or relevant government agency will do the needful by deducting that money from the pay slips of the members of parliament who are members of that committee. And for Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa, if at all they have some pension, then that money should be recovered from the pension.
Do you seem to agree? I see you laughing.
Of course, I don't agree with that, because when someone is jobless, like you've seen former members of parliament asking for more allowances and pension, maybe we can forgive them, because they spent out of money and lost the seat what they wanted, so they never got anything. But among the things that were discussed by this committee were elections and the processes.
Okay.
There was no need to discuss about 2022 elections, because I normally tell people, if there were election malpractices in the Republic of Kenya, how comes Elijah Njoroge, the MP for Gatundu, won against Jubilee in Gatundu and won against UDA, and I'm the only independent MP in Central Kenya? Maybe Uhuru Kenyatta would have influenced the outcome of the election in Gatundu, but he never did. William Ruto did not do it also. If you look at every county, like Nairobi County, we have Kasarani, Ronald Karauri, we have Meru, we have Marakwet, we have independent MPs in Marakwet, and even Raira's backyard, Migori, the women rep. So us as the independent MPs, we believe that elections were fair, because nobody supported us. Nobody stole from us, and nobody supported us.
Mheshimiwa Barasa says that money should be refunded, and Mheshimiwa Kururia says they should be forgiven. What are your thoughts? We are different, Mheshimiwa.
We have more than 400 members of parliament, both in the National Assembly and in the Senate, that were voted by Kenyans. We only have one debating chamber. We only have one debating chamber. That is the chambers of the of Parliament, National Assembly, and the Senate, and the county assemblies across this country. That is an area where laws are canvassed. The creation of this National Dialogue Committee to sit in Bomas is not a debating chamber. It's not a place where laws are hatched, where laws are crafted. So those discussions and members of parliament are paid from the taxpayer. We are paid enough money to discuss anything at any time and pass it.
Mheshimiwa, we need to take a short break. When we come back, we still continue the conversation of the state of the nation, looking at other aspects and propositions in the NADCO report. What are your questions, your feedback? Keep them coming. We will see you wishing us happy holidays. I did say on the SMS platform, start with your name, where you're watching us from, and your question, as well as your comment regarding the program. We're back in a few minutes. To stay with us.
Ni aje watu wangu, karibuni kwenye studio zetu za MPs, na leo tuna furaha kuwaeleza kwamba tuna mshindi wa bonus ya MB8 ambaye alipata mechi 7 kwa 8. Wacha tuweze kuzungumza naye.
Naitwa Peterson Macharia, nimetoka Naivasha, kijiji naitwa Kamere, na kule ndio mimi naishi.
Unafanya kazi gani kule Kamere?
Pale mimi ni bodaboda, licha kwamba mimi mzee, lakini mimi mchapa bodaboda.
Ulijuaje kuhusu MPs?
Kijana wangu aliweza kunielezea, lakini sasa sikuweza kumpuuza.
Sasa nataka nikukabidhi ile check yako ya bonus yako ya Kenya shillings 50,000 ili uweze kujihisi kama mshindi.
Atashukuru kabisa mimi.
Sasa hii ndio check yako ya 50,000 bonus ya MB8 ya zile mechi 7 kwa 8.
Nimeshukuru kabisa, na yenyewe nahisi kushinda. Juu nimejaribu kuingi pesa nimekuliwa, mpaka mnapata marafiki wanakuambia wewe ni pesa unapoteza bure.
Mwekezaji, pia wewe waweza kuwa mshindi. Unachohitaji kufanya ni ingia kwenye tovuti yetu maybets.com uweze kuregister. ama tuma neno join kwenye 29098.
It is exactly 10:03 p.m. right here in Nairobi. You're watching the Daily Report, still on the segment Power and Politics. My guests are still here in studio. That is Honorable Didmus Barasa, MP for Kimilili, as well as Honorable Elijah Njoroge Kururia, Member of Parliament for Gatundu North. Thank you, gentlemen, for still staying with us. So in this whole process, that seems, in what I'm getting from you, is that it was a waste of time. Moving forward, because we are in 2023, now heading to 2024, do we expect, with the opposition saying they will go back to the streets if the demands are not met, where does this leave Kenyans?
I think what we need to do as a country is to send a very stern warning to anybody in this country, is to actually act in a manner that will deter anybody else who will try to usurp the powers of a legally established entity. For example, we will want matters that have got to do with electricity, with power, to be handled by the relevant agency that was created in the Constitution to handle those kind of things. So forming a committee somewhere to usurp the powers of Parliament, I think we must act in a manner that I will send a very stern warning that Kenyans were not fools when they created entities in our Constitution with a specific mandate. Because what is happening now is like you say, I don't trust Parliament. It's like you say, I don't trust DCI. It's like you say, I don't trust EACC. And then you are usurping the powers of EACC by creating the so-called, these things that are usually referred to as multi-agency. The Kenyans were not fools when they said that you cannot be the one prosecuting and then you can't be the one investigating and prosecuting. So they established two offices, one of the DCI, another one for DPP. But if you bring these two people to sit together in the name of a multi-agency, then you are defeating the purpose of separation of power. You are derailing. You are derailing the gains of our new constitution, right? Yeah. So that's why we are saying that these issues of creating committees outside the bodies that are mandated to execute that mandate is a waste of time and it's a waste of public resources.
Okay.
You know?
Mheshimiwa Kururia, in the nick of time.
And just to finish, let me tell you.
Yes.
You don't prevent anybody from carrying out demonstrations. But the demonstration should be carried out within the ambit of the law. And if there is anybody who will break the law that guides demonstration in this country, where you go to demonstrate near a hospital facility, where you go to demonstrate within the school compound, where you destroy properties, the same way police officers deals with rock borders, the same way police officers deal with chicken thieves, the same way police and the chiefs crack down those who drink and sell illicit brew. That is the same way that those who break the law, including destruction of public property and private businesses, should be dealt with. And there is nobody who is above the law. Whether you are the former prime minister or the former minister in the previous governments, the law must be applied the same as to whether that person breaking the law is a lord who lives in the castle or is a pauper who lives beneath the bridge.
Mheshimiwa Kururia, are the calls for going back to the streets by Azimio justified?
They are justified because, of course, picketing is allowed in our laws, but what Azimio have been doing is not demonstrations. What they've been doing is activities that are illegal and criminal based. They cannot be called demonstrations. Whatever they go to demonstrate and to express on the roads is not what they put on the paper. If they're talking about election malpractices, they don't have to go burning things and beating people up and even stealing from innocent Kenyans. That is not a demonstration. We should be taught, we should do a civic education on what is demonstration. Because I think what we've been doing as demonstrations is not supposed to be done. We need to be a bit civil, we need to be disciplined, and imagine that if you're demonstrating now, there are Kenyans who are not demonstrating. You're not demonstrating and representing the whole country. There are people who are not interested in what you're doing. We have two coalitions. And of course, as a Mio, when they are marshalling their people to go to the roads to demonstrate, they do not instruct them on what to do. They just ask them to go to the roads, they destroy everything, and they do not attain anything. And the outcome is losses in the Republic. Yes.
So when you look at even how the government, the Kenya Kwanza government, and we'll come to Mheshimiwa, the Kenya Kwanza government has asked for more time to be able to implement its strategies. But in the same time, Kenyans are complaining about the high cost of living.
Yes.
What then should the government do?
The government should embark on dealing with the issues that are affecting common mwananchi, not the issues that are brought by political leaders, like the Azimio leaders. They should concentrate with the cries of the common mwananchi, mostly the cost of living, the fuel prices, and even things like our decline in shilling, because Kenyans are not happy. Those should be the priorities in the Republic of Kenya, and not dealing with the opposition. As far as we know that opposition have the right to do what they're doing, they do not have the excess rights to misuse it. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Didmus, looking at the whole situation of the high cost of living, the president has asked, even the deputy president, the prime cabinet secretary, that Kenyans give the Kenya Kwanza government more time. But the cost of living keeps going higher. Is the president listening, and have the hustlers been forgotten?
Before I come to that, what ASMIO leaders have been calling demonstrations actually is economic sabotage, urban banditry, and sacrificing our economic gains for political reasons, and they should be dealt with in accordance with the law. When it comes to the cost of living, I want to agree that the cost of living should be looked into. And what the government of Kenya is going to do, I say is going to do because I am at the center of the government. I make my recommendations. We have a president who listens to everybody, including us, his troops. And very soon you will see relevant government agency, Treasury, that are usually in charge of economic planning. They are going to come out with a raft of parameters to be able to look into. You know, when you say that we have the cost of living is high, what are you saying? Is it because the cost of unga is dropping at a low rate? Is it because the cost of fuel is dropping at a low rate? Or what is it that can make someone say that the cost of living is very high? So they are going now to come up with the itemized parameters that Kenyans can look into to show, so that Kenyans can use those parameters to actually audit the government interventions. I am fully aware, and everybody understands in this country, that and even the head of state himself made this pronouncement, that of course we've seen a slight drop in the cost of petroleum products, and the head of state said that every month you will see the cost of petroleum products continue to go down. So is the price of unga. So the whole debate about the cost of living in terms of what are the government interventions are debatable once the parameters are going to be isolated by Treasury, so that now we can begin to look into. And the whole approach of bringing down the cost of living will then be cascaded down to the ministries, and the various ministries that are concerned will be able to come up with their plan on how they are going to implement their interventions to try to bring the cost of living down, and most importantly, the Eurobond, which we are supposed to pay by March next year. I am 100% sure that once that one is done, and they will have now more money available to fund programs in this country, then the government of Kenya will have money to implement their interventions to solve public problems, including the skyrocketing cost of living.
Your colleagues in Parliament, most of them are even blaming the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his regime, whereas it's been a year over a year since the regime was handed over, or rather the Kenya Kwanza regime took over. Don't you think that it's a little bit too prolonged to keep on looping in the discussion of the former president?
I agree with you that the only problem of the previous government that is visible is that they borrowed too much money. But these issues of saying that so-and-so stole too much money from Treasury, I have said we stop that debate until that time when we will recover that money. Because the government has got all the machinery, ways and means to follow up on those characters and bring back whatever they stole. But even though I'm also waiting for investigations concerning the 17 billion that certain lady was bringing to this country, because some school of thought opines that that is part of the money that was stolen from Treasury, taken to a foreign country, and now they came in instead of cash, but they came in the name of fuel, so that now when you sell, now you will bring back that money back to this country. So we are waiting for investigators to expeditiously unravel that 17 billion. But I will ask our agencies and our government, if there is anybody who stole too much money from Treasury, that money must be followed and must be brought back into this country, regardless of whether the beneficiary is a former president or his ally, And we have reached a place where we should not continue crying. Just like from my community, there's a proverb that says, when you lose your child, and the mother of that child is still young, yourself, you are still energetic, you don't continue crying from the graveyard. You cry 1 week, then the other week or the other month, you go back to the basics and you pray God to give you another baby. Then life has to continue. So what we need to do now that the reason as to why very many Kenyans feel abandoned by us is because a number of government ministries are not transparent in terms of communicating to the Kenyans about their interventions to bring down the cost of living. I know there are a number of things that the government of Kenya is doing. So I would want to see either the government spokesman, Dr. Isaac Mwaura, to be briefing the country in the same manner as to which Honorable Mutahi Kagwe was briefing the country during COVID-19. He will want to see the weekly or quarterly briefings by government to the Kenyans that are on this particular sector, that where Kenyans are hurting. These are our interventions that we have implemented this week. And then after a month, they can even come back and say that the interventions which we implemented in the last 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks has brought forward this type of fruits, so that Kenyans continue to be aware that we don't have the government is not sleeping, but is taking their concerns seriously, because however much interventions the government has, however, regardless of how many programs the government is implementing, if Kenyans are not aware, they will feel let down, they will feel abandoned by government, so that they will now left with an option. Opposition thrives in confusion. Opposition thrives in where there is no transparency. Oppositions harvest, they reap heavily. So that's why they are flying propagandas all over with about this government not being concerned, simply because we are not communicating the very many interventions which we are implementing, so that Kenyans can be aware that they are not on their own. They have a government that is listening to them, and a government that is doing something to improve their life going forward.
Mheshimiwa Kururia, do you think that, how much time is more time for a country or for a people to grant a government to implement what it promised?
They should work with they should read the government's manifesto. they should have explained to Kenyans, we are going to take this time to do this, and Kenyans expect to see the same. But I agree with my colleague on the issue of mentioning and dragging the names of the former regime, and of course Uhuru Kenyatta also, into the affairs and the happenings of the current affairs of the state. Because when you take the government and you start running it, now it is your time to deal with all the issues that you inherit. You inherit all the problems, all the good things, and you inherit the people in the country. So you go on without mentioning them, because like where I come from, people are not very happy when every time we are going back mentioning the former regime. But that does not mean that if they did anything wrong, they should not be taken to court. They should be taken to court. Because Kenyans are asking, if they stole all this money, why are they not arrested? Why have they not been taken to court? They should be seeing something that is happening. They've not appeared before in the investigative agency over the same, and they want their money back. Another thing is the issue of the president and reviving the economy. People are very happy with his moves of reviving the economy, although it is painful when he's introducing very many taxes at the same time. Some people are feeling that he would be bringing one tax at a go, then wait for some time, then introduce another one. And also the issue of public participation, and also involving the wananchi, mostly the housing levy. There are some people, like the people of Gatondo North constituency, they are not interested in housing because they all have homes. Even if we build them, they cannot buy. There are people who in Nairobi and the urban areas, they need the housing. So like the court said, I agree with the courts, that it was discriminative because there are people who don't need the housing and there are others who need them. There are people like the people of Ruiru, where I was an MCA. They do not need agricultural products. They don't need fertilizer. They need bursaries because of the population. So what we need to do is to get a data and go to the ground, see, and we map the needs of specific areas in the Republic so that people are comfortable, instead of generalizing one problem and one need with one general solution. On
this issue of taxes, Mheshimiwa, do you think that perhaps, as he says, it should have been staggered? Have you tried proposing that to the president? Because you said you sit at the nerve center of government. This model of taxes, one after the other, do you think that it is an idea that he says staggering it would have helped?
What I want to say is that God gave us an opportunity. There are very many economic intricacies that we are experiencing as a people. It's not a weakness, it's a strength. God gave Kenya Kwanza government an opportunity to shine. You shine as government when you inherit a country with a dilapidated economy, so that you can reconstruct your economy, bring back the economic viability back on track, and you make history. So it's an opportunity that God gave it to us to be able to exploit and use it and do things different and get back our country on track. The only thing that we need to do is that during our campaigns, we traversed every part of this country. We sold a manifesto. We signed more than 47 economic charters. We convened what was referred by then as economic forums. We went to Bungoma, we went to Nyeri, we went to Murang'a, we went to Mombasa, Kisumu, everywhere. And we agreed with the people of Kenya, different groups, on what will be our deliverables once we form government. The only thing that we need to do is that those are the people that we owe an explanation. And if there are meetings that we are supposed to do as government, forget about the one that was held in Bomas with the Kimani Ichung'wah and Kalonzo Musyoka. If there are meetings that our government is supposed to hold, is to go back, is to reconvene the economic forums that we campaigned before, that we signed economic charters with, to be able to explain to them that these are the raft of issues which we agreed to be able to do for you. Number one, this one we have done. Number two, we are unable to do it because of the current economic situation of our country, and we need either 1 year or 6 months or whichever time that is practically possible. We explain to them. We do what we call, even when you do a main budget, and you realize that there are some things that may have changed, that may have not gone the way you planned. You bring and do a supplementary budget. So the only people that we are supposed to go back to reevaluate our commitments of what we signed with them are the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes.
When it comes to taxes that are being done, I think what we need to do as a country is that we need to urgently come up with a legislation that will allow Parliament and Kenyans review some of the policies that were passed by government, by us, and implemented by government. For example, even these finance bills that we approved, we need to go back and look at the impact. If the impact is negative to the Kenyan people, there must be a way of terminating those policies. The procedures of making policies doesn't end to policy implementation, but it ends with the policy termination, because you have to do a policy review. If it's not achieving the intended purpose, if that policy is implementing that policy is more expensive than what we thought, if that policy creates, a policy is designed to solve a public problem.
Yes.
But if you have a policy which after implementation, it has created a multiplier effect of many other problems, then such policies should be terminated. So you must have, because at the point of approving some of these policies, the discussions that support that policies are usually very good. But then we have to go back and reevaluate those policies after implementations. If they are making Kenyans suffer more, then it must have a way of terminating such policies.
Is the president listening to such ideas that you have?
Absolutely, and much of the problems which we are also passing through is also occasioned by some technocrats who have been given responsibilities to assist our president deliver his promises that he made to the Kenyan people are actually inefficient, that are completely incompetent, and I think our head of state is live to this matter. That's why he convened a meeting for performance contracting, where he agreed. He knows where this country should be, and the people to design the architecture and the roadmap to taking the country to where the head of state wants to be are the technocrats who went to universities, who went to school to learn on how to do, how to offer the services that they were given by the president to provide. And the reason why the head of state engaged in performance contracting signing with them is basically putting them on a performance improvement plan, where you sit down and agree that these are the things that I want you to deliver within this particular time. And I am 100% sure that during the quarter reviews, some of them will go home.
Mheshimiwa talks
On
about
the issue of the technocrats,
yes.
I am of the opinion that the head of state should have also included border people, Mama Boga, as his advisors, because the hustlers are not happy with the way things have been run. And the reason is because what they think, they did not have their representatives in the state and in State House, actually.
Is that something that concerns Kenya Kwanza? Before you go back to continue.
I think basically what I think is important is that the president should not disband the economic forums that are guided on how the Kenya Kwanza would design her manifesto.
Okay.
Because during those economic forums, all sectors were represented. The borders were represented. And those regional economic forums that were created during our campaigns, they should always be available to be able to give an input at that point that I will inform what the government is bringing in the National Assembly in the name of budget policy estimates.
Hold on to that thought, yes.
Exactly. What I mean is that the same way they were engaging them during campaigns, they should engage them even now.
Okay.
And on the same, when it comes to Kenyans,
yes,
all Kenyans are not complaining. We have some Kenyans who are not even recognizing when you increase the taxes.
Okay.
For example, every Kenyan who is in the urban centers and they drink, they take alcohol, I can tell you that I've done a very good research for the president to know that the cheapest bottle of 1 liter in Nairobi is retailing at almost 2,000, 3,000 shillings per liter. But the person who is paying for 2,000, 3,000 shillings per liter of alcohol is complaining of paying 250 shillings for his own petrol of the vehicle. So whereas people are complaining, it is not everybody who is complaining, because if you come to Thika Road, for us who stay along Thika Road,
yes,
by 6 a.m. in the morning, we have hefty traffic jams, even after the increase of fuel prices. So we are not opposing increase of taxes, but we should map where to increase and where to reduce.
I think what we need to do as a government, and I will be on the forefront, trying to do a proper research and send a policy paper to the policymakers in this country, is that payment of taxes should be determined by the income that one has. I would want to see a situation where even hospitals that are offering non-profit services to the Kenyans should be billed, when they are paying the electricity, they should be billed on a lower tariff.
Okay.
Same to schools, and same to some manufacturing institutions, so that the incentive that they are given in lowering, in putting them on a special tariff that's a bit cheaper, should also translate into lowering the cost of the product that they are injecting into the Kenyan market. So,
Mheshimiwa, on a scale of 1 to 10, because you need to wind up, on a scale of 1 to 10, has Kenya Kwanza delivered to its mandate?
Yeah, I would say we are at about 6%.
6%.
Yeah, because we are faced with a number of challenges, and I can tell you for free that the majority of the money that the government has so far collected, that money is somewhere. That money will go to pay Eurobond. And
is there hope for things to get better?
Absolutely. Okay. If there is hope, Kenyans need not to worry, because this government, Kenyans, they are in the right hands of William Samoei Ruto, and we are on the proper trajectory.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think this government has performed?
So far, I can rate them at 2%.
2 out of 10?
2 out of 10.
20%?
20%. And I can commend and say that they look like there is hope and potential, because we believe that was a planning stage. Now we are waiting for implementation. Okay. When we are collecting taxes, we need to see where that money is going. In addition to that, Kenyans are waiting to see how the president will deal with corruption in the Republic of Kenya. We do not want to collect money from wananchi, then the money lands into the pockets of leaders.
Absolutely. Mheshimiwa Didmus Barasa giving 60%, Mheshimiwa Kururia giving 20%. Do you agree the conversation continues online? You look like you have something to say.
Another thing which is very important, that I think going forward into the future, while deciding on how much taxes Kenyans will pay, we should also put into considerations also the levies that are being charged by county governments, so that we avoid the situations of subjecting Kenyans into double jeopardy, as much as we all agree that the hard economic times are also occasioned by what is happening around the world. We should try to find a way of how are we going to circumvent that suffering, so that Kenyans can at least have the reason why government exists is to lessen, because to make the citizens enjoy enjoy life and not to suffer.
And don't forget, we talked about we need to scrap
Yeah.
the county governments in the Republic of Kenya.
Yeah, the discussion that
We are losing millions and millions of shillings in those county governments in terms of administration.
Okay.
The money that cannot be accounted for by the governors. And we have lost that money for now almost 3 terms now. So that should now be a conversation where we are not going to dismiss devolution, but we need to devolve the funds more. But we do away with county governments.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. That's why we wind up with the bulletin tonight. The show tonight, I've been speaking to Honorable Didmus Barasa, MP for Kimilili constituency. Thank you much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us, as well as Mheshimiwa Elijah Njoroge Kururia, MP for Gatudu North. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. The conversation continues online. My name is George Maringa. Good night from Nairobi. Stay safe and be kind to one another. I'll see you tomorrow.